If you look down at your sofa and you can see the imprint of your buttocks, there's a problem. Excessive sitting, whether it's at home, at work, when you mush it all together, is associated now with the recent medical findings with a whole slew of concerns from a health perspective. The first is obvious. If somebody is sitting for too long throughout their day, they're not burning calories. The data suggests that people on the whole are eating about the same as they did a couple of hundred years ago, but by sitting too long, they're burning too few calories, and so obesity is the consequence. So when we think about the health consequences of excess sitting, it is obesity, the metabolic diseases such as diabetes, hypertension, high cholesterol. It is the mechanical issues, the joint problems, swollen ankles, back pain, neck pain, shoulder pain. But also it is the mental issues. And what is clear when you start to think about the health burden of sitting is it isn't just the physical body, it is the mind as well. Because just as the body is designed to be moving, the brain is designed to control it whilst moving. And so it isn't a surprise that excess sitting is also associated with a predisposition to depression, to low mood, and to a general malaise that you can feel in any cubicle-based office you happen to visit. And also, I think we like to think of our patients in a very holistic, in an all-encompassing way. I think there's a spiritual issue too. People who are sitting for too long are sedentary not only in their bodies and in their minds, but in their philosophy. So all of us want to do good things in the world, but if you're sitting, you can't do it. And so there's a stultification that occurs, I would say right at the heart of our souls, when you sit for too long. And the way I sometimes think about this is, how do we get seduced to sit all day long? Because the data suggests that the natural way of the human is to be moving throughout the day. Now, the art of seduction is a subtle, slow, insidious process. And what's important about understanding why the whole of the population in high-income countries has become chair sentenced is because it occurred over several hundred years, and so therefore none of us actually have memories of what it was like to be truly active throughout the day. So not only is our body not designed to be seated, but our minds aren't built to be sedentary either. What happened? About 200 years ago, slightly before my time, the Industrial Revolution occurred, where in order to increase, theoretically, human productivity, factories were built, and people in droves left the agricultural practices. Factory conveyor belts were built where people were seated or at least standing still all the time, and modern offices evolved where people and machines were built to stop people moving at all during their day. And not only did the arch enemy, the office chair, come into existence, but listen to this. The arch enemy, the office chair with wheels, came into existence. So the way to get around your office was you could actually scoot around on your wheeled office chair rather than even get up and move. Now, once workers of all different types became accustomed to living in urban centers, in city centers, seated all day long, of course, the car became ubiquitous in around the 1950s. By then, we would leave our homes, sit all the way to work in our car. We would sit all day at work. We would sit, of course, during lunch, and we would sit on our way home. And with the presence of ubiquitous television watching and exceedingly comfortable sofas, we would sit in the evening too. But there was more to come. The final nail hadn't been hammered yet into the coffin. Because then, around 30 years ago, we had computers on every desk. And not only on every desk at work, but on every desk at home. And all of a sudden, kids, instead of going to play hockey on the lake outside or soccer in the evening, it would be, let's go down to the basement and let's play our video games. And so you can see how slowly and subtly humans have transferred over just a couple of hundred years, which is a short period of time in the evolution of the human being, from being entirely leg-based throughout their day, taking occasional breaks to sit, to now becoming entirely chair-based, taking occasional breaks to walk. We wanted to know how on earth it can be that some people can eat whatever they want and never gain a pound in weight. And so what we did is we took a group of lean people, brought them onto our research center, and meticulously overfed each of those people by 1,000 calories a day more than they needed. We did that for 8 weeks so that everybody in these studies got an excess of 56,000 additional calories. Now, what we thought was there are going to be some people, as this indeed happened, who are more representative of most of us, myself included. For every additional calorie, it would end up in body fat. But there were indeed others who mysteriously, despite being meticulously overfed by this huge number of excess calories, didn't gain a pound. What was fascinating is how this occurred. What is the secret source of the thin? Here's what it is. It's NEAT. It's non-exercise activity thermogenesis. So that is the calories a person burns in their daily activity. Not going to the gym, not sitting down, but it is that movement we participate in throughout the day. The way it works is extraordinary. So that those people who, with overfeeding, don't gain weight are moving more spattered throughout their day. Now, is this done consciously? No. Is it done going to the gym? No. Is it done sprinting backwards and forth or frenetically fidgeting? No. The way people have this extraordinary capacity to burn off caloric excess and remain thin is by interspersing small bouts of walking movement throughout their day. These small bouts of walking average, when you actually average all of these little bouts of movement, because we measured them all with sensors, 1.1 miles an hour. So they're slow, and in general they're short, about 11 minutes or so. And all of us do actually have, because we then tested it, these opportunities throughout our day to push in these 11-minute bouts of walking. Whether that is just not emailing somebody at the other side of your office, whether that is walking down with the accounts to the account manager, whether that is taking an extra break to go to the bathroom, whether that is a short walk and talk meeting, whether that's gossiping at lunchtime whilst walking as opposed to sort of sitting down and eating. Repeated studies have come out to suggest that even if you are an individual who goes to the gym 3 times a week, 4 times a week in the evenings, that does not offset the harm of sitting for too long during the day. Now, that doesn't mean for a second that we're recommending people curtail their gym memberships, not at all. But what is critically important is that breaking up sitting time is something all of us have to do, whether you're a person battling with obesity, whether you're somebody who's thin, whether you're an individual who loves the gym, or whether you're not. But for everybody, is we have to break up sitting time. So if you've been sitting for an hour without a break, you've been sitting for too long. So most of our programs now have people at 50 minutes or sooner get up and take a movement break of some sort. Now that doesn't necessarily need to be structured quite in that fashion. For instance, people can schedule their meetings as walk and talk meetings. People can use the telephone ringing as a cue to get up from their chair and pace around whilst on the telephone. And of course, there is the new vogue of having treadmill desks, which are terrific for those who can have access to them. On one hand, one has to break up sitting time. On the other hand, each of us likes to have a straightforward goal. So what we recommend to people is to monitor their initial non-exercise, their daily activity. Set a goal for breaking up every hour of sitting with a break, but set an overall goal for increasing physical activity by, let's say, 20% over a 4-week period of time. So really the first thing each of us needs to do is to understand how important and significant this issue is as a health concern for body and for mind. And the first step in breaking away from the chair sentence is to make that pre-contemplative mental moment of, in a way, saying to the chair, I am going to get up. Because as soon as you've done that, it's like turning a switch. As soon as you've done that, there is a realization that you have to do something. What I say to individuals, the trick to escaping the chair is to view this as a war against the chair. And that involves a mental decision that you're actually going to do something, that you're going to revolt, an understanding that there needs to be a plan, a clear recognition that things don't always go our way and so we need to adapt, and the understanding that as people we don't operate alone. We operate as part of a social entity, and so we need the help of others. So developing a clear and strategized plan is the way to do this. Now, some people love to measure things, totally cool. Some people don't, cool too. Some people like very concrete plans. They need to keep books and logs and write everything down if that's the way they are. But an individualized plan based on who you are is the key. And what we found was extraordinary. People who are lean, working in the same jobs as people with obesity, are up and walking around about 2.25 hours extra a day than people with obesity. People with obesity appear to be prone to respond to chair-based cues for 2.25 hours a day more than people who are lean. Now, what is particularly important about this is that it implies that there is a therapeutic window that each of us can actually achieve of an extra 2 hours a day of movement. If ever there was a message of hope, this is it. And so when you start to look at the implications of walking, being active whilst at work, not only are all the health numbers improving, as you would expect, but also productivity and the general well-being of the company improves step by step alongside the health benefits. If you'd like to know more about the NEAT program and about how to fight and win against the chairman, come to our website.